Hey Algebra Gang, Mr. Nichols here. We're going to talk about complete and incomplete quadratic equations. This is found in our new book on pages 4 through 7. This is our next little lesson that we're doing. So we want to know what a complete and incomplete quadratic equation is. A complete quadratic equation, by definition, has a second power and a first power. We know that this 2x is to the first power. So it has both a second power and a first power. If we look at this guy over here, we see that we have a second power, but I don't see any x to the first power anywhere here. Same with this one. We have an x to the second power, but no x to the first power. So what we can see here is that this one is complete. This one's incomplete because it doesn't have an x to the first power, and this one is incomplete. All right, so we see this one here. I just wrote this down. So if we look at it, it's not set up like this one here where everything is on one side and equals 0, but is this complete or incomplete? Well, we see it has a second power and a first power, so by first it could be a complete. Let's go ahead and put it into the form where it equals 0. So we're going to have to take 4x away from this side, take 4x away from this side, all right? And so now we have x squared minus 4x equals plus 4 equals 0. So it's equaling 0 just like our first template over here. And we see we have a second power and a first power. So this guy is complete. The second part of this figuring out quadratic equations is to solve them. So let's look at solving it. Now I'm going to introduce something new here to you that, please remind me if I forget something new, but we're going to try to solve these guys. Now, very much like just solving a regular equation, except for we have a square there. Well, like in any of our equations, you want to get the radical or the variable on a side by itself. So to do that, we're going to add 25 to both sides. Now you could do this. Easy enough. We're adding both 25 to both sides, so we have x squared equals 25. So how do we get rid of this 2 right here? Well, we learned with the radicals, if you square the radical, they cancel each other out. Well, we have a square, so let's put a radical on it. Let's do the square root of both sides. What you do on one side, you have to do on the other. So this guy cancels out this guy, and we have x equals 5. But is that the finished answer? Here's the new thing. Please write this down. This will be a plus or minus 5. What? Well, let's put it back in there. Let's say we're going to do our check, and we're going to say 5 squared minus 25 equals 0. All right? So we have that on our paper. So we have 25 minus 25 equals 0. So that makes sense. 0 equals 0. Okay, that's good. What about minus negative 5? Well, let's look at that. We're going to say negative 5 squared minus 25 equals 0. That just does not look like it's going to work. But let's look at it. We're going to take minus 5, and we're going to multiply that by minus 5. Then we're going to subtract it from 25 equals 0. Well, negative times a negative is a positive. 5 times 5 is 25. So this is a positive 25 minus 5 equals 0. 0 equals 0. So it does work. So when you're giving me the answers online, I would like for you to say plus slash minus. That tells me it could be plus or minus whatever the number is. So plus or minus 5, plus or minus 5. And we're going to skip this one because we just kind of did that right there. We're going to go to this last one, which looks kind of crazy. We have x squared equals 9 over 64. Well, if we have a square, how do we eliminate the square? We go ahead and we square root both sides. Now, I did the fraction because I wanted to show you this little part here. Well, the 2 and the square root, they cancel out, so we have x equals the square root of 9 over 64. What we've known from before when we're trying to figure out the radicals and everything is that we can expand this. So x equals the square root of 9 over the square root of 64. So x equals 3 over 8. Are we done? No, that could be plus or minus. Plus or minus, because if we have a negative 3 times a negative 3 equals a positive 9, negative 8 times negative 8 equals positive 64, and that's what we get there. Remember, as always, email me if you have any trouble or if you're confused about something. Thank you.